This is YGTV in the YG stage, sponsored by Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Circle Electric. I'm your host, Andy Weins, president of GreenUp Solutions, here on set at Serendipity Labs. Young Guns is a growing group of entrepreneurs and free thinkers that are sharing new ways to grow your business, build your brand, and make an impact. YG Stage is one of 4 shows that we host here on YGTV, where we feature business owners, CEOs, subject matter experts, and maybe even you, to inspire, innovate, and break the rules of business. For more content shaking up the business industry, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to hearing David speak. The stage will be all his in just a moment. Today, we welcome David Cooks, keynote speaker, coach, and award-winning author of Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. Let's welcome him to the stage. Today, we welcome David Cooks, speaker, author, and business coach to the YG stage. David, how are you this morning?
I am great. It's good to be here, man. Finally.
Here we are. All right, so today you're talking about getting undressed during a pandemic. What does that mean?
Well, we all get undressed, and it's a form of rebranding. Right now the buzzword is pivoting. And so for me, getting undressed dealt with getting independence back after a tragedy. And so we're going to talk about how you can go from paralysis, because we've all seen some sort of or some form of paralysis because of COVID-19. Yep. And how can we go from there to purpose? And so there are 3 things we're going to focus on today: perspective, perseverance, and partnerships, and how that can help you get from a difficult place to a place of purpose where you can serve others. And I'll use some of my story as a backdrop to illustrate some of that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's focusing on the 3 Ps to pivot during a pandemic.
Absolutely.
So the 5 Ps, right? You can market that if you want, the 5 Ps to success.
Okay, we can market that. Let's talk about that when we're done.
David, I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Fleet Farm has everything you need for every season of life. From tending the vegetable garden season to planting 100 acres of crops season. Fleet Farm is your one-stop shop. Whether it's strawberry jam season, cook your walleye season, or his first set of wheels season. Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
For more than 80% of families, today's medical billing practices are confusing. At HPS, our goal is to improve the healthcare experience for the patient by making medical bill payments less stressful. In Wisconsin, that's all made possible by our comprehensive independent healthcare provider network. We simplify billing and lower costs for everyone involved in healthcare and offer various ways for individuals to pay without breaking the bank.
Circle Electric is a 35-year-old commercial, industrial, and healthcare electrical contractor with engineers and designers on staff, backed by the most technical and well-trained master and journeyman electricians. Whether it's an equipment move, new building, or commercial remodel, from pre-construction all the way through startup, primary power, branch power, or low voltage systems, we're here to support you. Our 24/7 on-call service department is here to meet your electrical needs for our industrial and healthcare customers. You always hear safety first. We are safety always. Circle Electric will maintain electrical reliability for business continuity.
It is great to be here on the YG stage. I'm David Cooks, author of the book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. It's an honor to speak with you today. I won't be long, but I guarantee you I'll be good. So grab a pen and paper. I'm going to help us today as we go from paralysis to purpose. Getting undressed, something that we all do all the time, I think. If you're watching me and you're wearing the same clothes you were sleeping in, let's reconsider that. But I think for the most part, we all change clothes, and changing clothes for all of us kind of represents change. It's kind of a rebranding. The clothes that we take off, it's about our past. The clothes that we put on, it's our future and where we're going. So it's an indication of what we're doing. For me, getting undressed really was about regaining independence. See, when I was 15 years old, I experienced a spinal aneurysm. I was a pretty good basketball player. And I'm going to say I was a really great one because there's no YouTube or social media for you to go look at. So I was a really great player, I think. And I just wanted to play for my high school. That was my goal. It was October 19th of 1979. I woke up, it was a Friday morning. I remember like it was yesterday. It was a nice fall day, just like we have here in Wisconsin today. And I went to my high school to take my quarter exams, and we were 3 days away from tryouts. Spent the whole summer getting ready. I didn't make the team my freshman year. Disappointed in that. I got injured, didn't make it. Spent that summer working as hard as I could, getting myself physically and mentally ready to participate. I woke up that morning with a slight pain in my back. I didn't think much of it because 1 week prior to that, I had gone to see my physician and he had given me a clean bill of health. You're good to go. So I thought I ate something funny or slept funny. Didn't think much of it. Went on to school that day, took my exams, went to the gym, played some basketball. I struggled a little bit that day. I wasn't as athletic as I normally was. Not that I was a great athlete, but well, maybe I'll say that. I was a great athlete, but I found myself struggling a little bit. Well, I went home, didn't think much of it. I figured I would lay down and go to sleep and things would get better. Woke up a few hours later and I almost collapsed. I had to grab onto a table that was sitting by my bed and I called for my parents and I said, hey, I need your help. Well, at that moment, I knew something serious had happened. I went over to the emergency room. It took about 5 hours for them to see me, and eventually it was diagnosed that I had a blood vessel erupt on my spinal cord. I was 15 years old. Tragedy. I was now paralyzed. I was in a wheelchair. What was I going to do? I had the rest of my life to live, and I had some decisions to make. So your situation may not be as dramatic as mine, or it could be. But we all face things in life that are unexpected. And when they hit you square in your eyes, between your eyes, you've got to decide what you're going to do. Well, you know, I was fortunate because I had three things that were in place for me. I had a faith that was really strong before it happened. I had a family that was really strong before it happened. And I had some great friends that helped me get through it after it happened. We may not all have that, but I tell you, if you do, it helps you get through. So I want to take you on a journey, and just go with me. I'm going to take you through some of my life. I can't do it all today, but certain things that helped me get from paralysis to purpose. And there are three things that I think are very important. The most important thing that you need to have to move forward in life from a difficult place is the proper perspective. How you see anything is how you'll see everything. I'll say that again. How you see anything is how you'll see everything. You see, I didn't see that my life had ended. I was just trying to figure out what my next step was. I didn't see my paralysis as a permanent thing. I know you may find that interesting, but I found it, I considered it as something I was transitioning to, was gonna move forward in. How you see something, it impacts how you attack it, how you approach it, you know, how you go about it. And so your perspective is extremely important. The second thing that's going to be important that we talk about is perseverance. The difference between me and many people, I never quit, and I still haven't quit. So your perseverance becomes very important. And lastly, partnerships. Sometimes in life, I think we feel like we have to do it by ourselves, and you don't. I mean, to me, that's comforting. There are people that will help you in partnerships that you can establish that will get you from a place of paralysis to fulfilling purpose and serving others. So let's go back about 40 years. Yeah, I know. I look like I'm like 25 or so, but I'm not. Let's go back about 40 years. And I went to the rehab center because I had to relearn how to do everything. How to get dressed, how to bathe, all of that kind of stuff. I remember going into the rehab center and going down the hallway when I first got there, and I was amazed at what I saw. I had never been sick, so I had no idea that there were literally people fighting for their lives, like all around me, and I didn't know that. So when I get in there and I'm looking around, I'm like, man, these people got it pretty bad off. I mean, they had breathing machines and different things, and I was just like, you know what? I think I can do this. My perspective began to change based on what I saw, and I began to appreciate what I had. And so I get to the rehab center, And I get into my room, and there's this guy there named Tony Otters. Tony changed my life. As life-changing as paralysis was, it was Tony Otters that changed my life. Tony was a quadriplegic. Had no idea what that was. Had never seen anybody in a wheelchair before. And Tony had suffered a horrific diving accident. Big guy. He was like 6'5", and he was a quadriplegic. So the only thing he really had use of was a little bit of his hands. And then from the neck up, he was okay. Tony was probably the most upbeat guy I think I had ever met. This guy was talking about going home, getting back to college, and becoming a doctor. Not a PhD, an MD doctor. And I was like, all right, I can get with the going home, I can get with the going to college, but to being a doctor, how are you gonna be a doctor? I don't know how you're gonna do that. But his attitude was infectious. And I was like, man, this guy right here is amazing. And so I began to watch his work ethic and his attitude. And I was already upbeat and kind of ready to go. I was 15 years old. I was just starting to like girls, and they were obviously liking me. And so I was trying to get back to school. That's what I wanted to do. And so I was good to go. But this guy's work ethic and everything changed my whole perspective. And so how I saw things from that moment all the way to now was this. Every day is a great day to be alive. And you know why? Because it's a chance for me to be great. It's a chance for me to be great. It's a chance for me to make a difference. And so from that moment on, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna work as hard as I can to make this work. So I'm in rehab, and I'm busting my butt. I'm doing everything they tell me to do. And I remember the day I learned how to get dressed. What a fantastic day that was. And that was a big deal. I mean, until you've been there, you may take that for granted, but just knowing how to get your clothes on and everything, that was a big deal. That was part of independence for me. Well, there was one night that, and they always helped me at night to kind of get undressed. I don't know why they never taught me how to get undressed, but that's a different conversation. But one of those nights, it was crazy in the hospital, in the rehab center. And things were going on, and no one ever came to help me. And so I sat there in my room, and I was like, man, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. I can either sleep in my chair, or I can try to figure out how to get undressed. And so I had to learn how to get undressed. I thought I could get undressed by doing the opposite of what I did to get dressed. But that didn't work. I failed at that about 3 or 4 times. It took me an hour to figure that thing out. But let me tell you, when I figured out how to get undressed, that was it. I was now fully independent. I could dress myself, now I could get undressed, and I was on my way home. The doctors told me when I got there that it would take at least 6 months for me to get through rehab, to get back. I went there in October. 2 months later, it was December 24th, Christmas Eve. 2 months later, I was at home. And all of that started with Tony Otters, how he changed my perspective on how I saw things. How does that apply today? How does that apply to life? Well, as we're dealing in this time of difficulty, you've got to see opportunity on the other side of tragedy. You've got to see opportunity on the other side of obstacles. See, because obstacles don't redefine you, they redirect you. They don't redefine your purpose. My purpose in life did not become paralyzed when I did. I had to still fulfill what I was put on earth to do. And so that becomes very important as you move forward, as you see things. Remember that on the other side of your struggle is a story. And the most positive thing that you will ever have in life is your story. And you know why? Because it's yours. It's authentic. There's no one else that can tell it the way you can tell it. There's no one that can have the emotion and passion about it the way you do. And so on the other side of obstacles, there's always opportunity. As we look at this COVID environment that we're in now, we are all being challenged to move in a different direction, to find opportunity, to look into the future and see if we can position ourselves, if we can change our clothes for the future, which is full of technology and opportunity. See, a pandemic does some interesting things. A pandemic reveals what's essential, and what's essential will last, and what is not will not. And you have to determine, are you in a position now to pivot for purpose and pivot for the future? And I think that's where we are. Secondly, I talked about perseverance a little bit. I want to go back to my first job I got. I was a 17-year-old kid at Marquette High School here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there were a number of business people in the community who had identified me as a person who they thought would be a good leader. I didn't know what that meant, but they helped me get a job at a bank. I always wanted to be a banker. I loved bankers because they dealt with a lot of money and they wore nice clothes. I still have one of the two. I'll let you guess which one that is. And so I remember my first banking job, and it was so interesting. One of the responsibilities I had was to file checks. Well, for those people probably don't know what checks are nowadays because everything is cashless, but checks, we used to use them to pay bills. And so part of my job was to file them. I didn't take that job lightly. I wanted to be in the bank, and I thought this was my opportunity to do something great. Well, that check filing job led to a number of other things. The reason I want to just talk about that is because it's going to come back later in my life where I didn't frown upon a small beginning. I maximized it and turned it into a great outcome. Sometime when we're in transition and we're going from paralysis to purpose and we're getting undressed and we're changing clothes, we don't know what it is that we're stepping into. But whatever you're stepping into, there's greatness in there for you if you maximize the opportunities. So I'm filing checks. I'm the best check filer in the bank. My checks are beautiful. They're alphabetized. I tried to color code them. I was doing all kind of crazy stuff. Little did I know that there were so many people watching what I was doing. I had no idea. I was just doing my job. I wanted to get downtown to the bank because that's where the action was. That's where the money was. That's where the deals were being done. And all I knew was that this was an opportunity for me. Well, I did a good enough job that they took me to the vault in the bottom of the bank. I could count coins. Wow, that was boring. But I was getting closer to the commercial lending floor. And I kept moving and kept going. Part of that was important to me because you know what? I had people outside of my family who identified me as someone they wanted to partner with. And those partnerships helped me to keep going from a difficult place as a 17-year-old kid to eventually becoming a banker and a successful businessman. I tell you that story because I later went on to Duke University to get my master's degree in business. And while there, I thought, what the heck, I might as well try to coach with Coach K and the Duke basketball team. Why not? Why not have big goals? People who dream small, they get small results. And so I love the game of basketball, and my passion for the game had never changed. And so I said, what the heck? I had coached a little bit, and I thought I'd be okay. And I went to see Coach a few times, and he wasn't there. They told me he was on vacation, and I didn't believe them. I thought they were blowing me off, and went the third time, and he was still on vacation. And how much vacation does this guy get? At some point, he's got to work, doesn't he? And so eventually, I go one time, and the secretary says something very different to me. She says, he's not available. Ooh. She didn't say that he wasn't here. She said, he's not available. Bingo, here's my opportunity to meet him. So I'm sitting there, leaving him another note, like a Post-it note that I was here. And there's another Tony sitting in the office, a guy named Tony Lang. Tony I didn't know at the time, but Tony was a basketball player. And he said, hey, aren't you that guy from Wisconsin? And I didn't answer the question because I didn't know who he was or exactly what he was getting at. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you coached down in Florida with a team from Wisconsin. I love the way you worked with your players. Are you here to help us? Oh, absolutely, I'm the guy from Wisconsin. And yes, I'm here to help you. Little did I know, when we talked about filing checks, I didn't know who was watching what I was doing. That helped me get down to the bank. Little did I know while I was coaching, just doing the things that I love to do and giving it everything that I had, that there was somebody that was watching me that would eventually connect me to the greatest coach, arguably, of all time. I didn't know. It's important to understand. You never know where your network is going to come from or who the next person is that could be your breakthrough point. That's why you treat everybody right and do the best you can. So I get in. I'm in now. I'm at Duke. I'm like, oh man. this is Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley. This is like some of the glory years. And I get to be a part of this thing. And so it's crazy. Coach calls me in and he says, well, we don't have any positions for you or anything, but I want you to hang around. And sure, I'll do that for a year. Never missed a practice. I went to games, paid my way, was faithful every day. Well, next year comes, he calls me in his office and he says, Dave, we'd love to have you be a part of the program, but we need you to be a manager. Now, let me explain to you what a manager does. Now, I'm 28 years old. I'm in my second year of graduate school, getting my MBA. A manager fills water bottles and makes Gatorade. That's what a manager does. And he does laundry, or she does laundry. So when he told me that, I had a choice to make. And let me tell you, it took me about 2 seconds to make the decision. Absolutely, yes, I will. You know why? Because I filed checks a few years ago, and I understood small beginnings could lead to great endings. And so I had been prepared and understood that this is just a way to get in, filling water bottles and making Gatorade. It's going to be an opportunity for me to be a part of a winning program. People would ask me, here's your perspective again. They would ask me, what do you do for the basketball team? Oh, I help us win championships. That's what I do. What do you mean? I said, yeah, we need water and Gatorade every day in order for us to win championships. So I'm helping us win championships. And they were like, man, I never heard that. I said, me either, but that's what I'm doing. And so what a great opportunity. So while this is going on, once again, Coach K is watching how I'm doing the water bottles and making the Gatorade. And he's like, we've watched enough. We think you know a little bit about the game. Don't worry about that. Let's get you in on practice planning and coaching and that type of stuff. And again, partnerships. Strategic partnerships, and you don't have to make the journey alone. So I had changed clothes again, even in that situation. It was another start over. It was new for me. And I had to do it. I didn't know where I was going exactly, but I knew I was heading in the right direction. And so I was getting undressed again. We're talking about getting undressed during a very difficult time, during a pandemic. And you're going to have to change your clothes as opportunities present themselves. There was no way in the world I was going to be filling water bottles in a suit and tie. I had to get some sweats, get the Duke practice jersey on, and have the appropriate clothing for the opportunity that I was given. Well, suffice it to say, that leveraged me into a number of other places. And see, this is what I mean. When you take advantage of opportunities and your perspective is right and you make strategic partnerships, you can leverage yourself for greatness beyond what you could ever believe could happen. What you thought was little in your eyes was great in somebody else's eye, and that can cause you to really move forward. So we talked a little bit about perspective today. We talked about perseverance. How bad do you really want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice to do it? I'll tell another really quick story. After I left Duke University, I went to the Northeast and I was working for a fairly large financial firm. And I found myself sitting at my office drawing up basketball plays instead of doing Excel spreadsheets. And I thought to myself, that's not fair to me, that's not fair to the company, I've got to figure out what to do here. So eventually I left the corporate world. I took a 70% pay cut to work at a university, live on campus with a bunch of students, and I was in a townhouse. See, sometimes purpose and following your purpose takes sacrifice. That was a whole nother set of clothes. I had to get totally undressed again. Now I've got a pay cut. I'm living on, I went from a 2-bedroom apartment to, what do you call those 1-bedroom places? I guess it's a 1-room place really. And efficiency is what they call them. That's what I went to. But you know what? It was a choice I made. It was important enough for me to forgo what I was in to pursue what I thought I was called to do. And that was impact young people's lives. And you talk about fulfillment. The 70% pay cut didn't matter because I was as happy as I had ever been doing what I was doing. And so as you look for things now, there's some things that I think are pretty important to help you move forward. We talked about perspective. We talked about perseverance. We talked about the importance of strategic partnerships. Let me give you one final story. This has been a very difficult year for me. By far the most challenging year I've had physically in my life. I know you may find that tough to believe. But in November of 2019, I went to the emergency room. I thought I had the flu. Well, it turned out to be sepsis. So I ended up on bed rest for about 120 days. I had a surgery. One worked, one did not work. By the time I was coming off bed rest, it was just in time for COVID-19 to shut down. I had already been shut down. I had been in the house 120 days. So I was prepared for what we had to do. Well, during that preparation time, I was able to do something that we all need to do more of, and that was reflect. I had time to think about who I was, what I was doing with my life, where I was going to go. And there are three things that were important. I guess we're talking a lot of threes today. One, I celebrated myself. I gave myself an attaboy for all the things in life that I had accomplished. And then I challenged myself. What are some of the things you need to work on? What can you do better? How can I be a better person? And then thirdly, I made some changes. As I was in the bed thinking about what do I do now? I'm a public speaker. Those venues are closed. That's my livelihood. What do I do next? You know what? I have a book. Let me see if I can figure out a way to get some information about my book out there. And I would love to do a podcast. So let me start interviewing people and just see how this goes. That turned into a 16-week series called Insights from Getting Undressed. And then from there, I began to take classes that dealt with technology, audio, video, doing all those types of things. Then I said, you know what? There's a virtual world out here for me too. I now need to pivot. In basketball, we call it pivoting. That's what we've talked about today. Pivoting is an interesting thing. When I coach basketball, I used to tell my players, you win the game with your feet. You don't win the game with your hands. And the best players become almost unguardable because of their footwork. Your ability to pivot left, to pivot right, forward pivot, reverse pivot, makes you almost unguardable on the court. And the best players in the world, in every sport, can do it in the game. In the middle of the game is when they do it. And so I found myself in this game still, because I believe as long as there's time on the clock, you can still change the game. You can still have an impact in the game. And you have to understand that. It doesn't say 0, 0, 0, 0. There's still some time. And if there's time, you can still make a difference. I will leave you with this. If you had told me 40 years ago that I'd be where I was today, I probably would have laughed at you. If you'd have told me a year ago I would have had sepsis, 2 surgeries, one that wasn't successful, and I'd still be here talking to you today. If I knew that in advance, if teachers like my wife knew last March that they were going to have to overnight go virtual, if they knew that in advance, I'm not sure how you would perform, because your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure. That means this: there is something about the human spirit that is amazing to me, that allows for you, when you have the right perspective, when you've got a sense of perseverance, and you've got strategic partnerships that can help get you from paralysis to purpose, you can handle more than you think you can handle. And it's amazing if you understand that during this time. I don't care what you're facing. I don't care what it is. If there's time on the clock, you can impact the game, because your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure. Thank you.
David, that was amazing. As I was sitting there, I was just getting sucked into everything what you were saying. because it was real. It was on point. It was genuine. It was vulnerable. You said you have no formal training in public speaking, but you're phenomenal.
Well, I can only speak about myself.
Yeah.
Anything that I would do outside of that probably wouldn't go so well. And so it's easy for me to tell you who I am and the things that I've been through. And it hasn't always been that way, though, to be honest with you. It took me some years to get comfortable about talking about the wheelchair and all that kind of stuff because it was new to me. Yeah. But once I realized that people were actually watching me and being inspired by what I did, I was like, wow, that's crazy to me. And so now I just try to be authentic. I try to keep it real. I tell people all the time, I'm just a normal guy with an extraordinary situation or story. And if I can just help you to understand that you can make it today, don't worry about tomorrow, don't worry about yesterday, but if you can make it today, then I feel like I've done what I'm supposed to do.
And I think, and you use the word perspective all the time, and that's the perspective today and every day. It is not just survive today, but thrive today.
Yes.
And just every day. Every day is the best day.
Every day.
If that's your perspective, I'm going to keep using your words, but that's the truth. That is the truth. Every day is your best day because that's the only one you got.
That's the only one you got. And you know what? Do what you can do because you can't do anything else. How about that?
No, you're absolutely right.
So if you do what you're supposed to, if you do what you can and maximize that day, I tell people all the time, sometimes you need to just go to bed because you've exhausted all of your mercy and grace for that day. And if you keep at it, you're going to get frustrated.
Yep.
And you know what? If you're fortunate enough to have it tomorrow, man, it's another new day, man.
No, you're always in a position to be successful tomorrow based on what you did today.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean burn yourself out today and sacrifice tomorrow.
That's right.
You got another tomorrow.
Yes.
And like you said it in a weird way, but if you don't have it tomorrow and the clock is zero, you got nothing to worry about. You're good.
You're good.
Put forth the effort. No, I really, I appreciate it. It was inspiring to me. I know it's going to be inspiring to our audience. Just the way you're vulnerable and transparent and you're reflective. Right? You would you have wished this life on yourself? It doesn't matter. It is what it is.
Right. And we don't necessarily get to choose the path life gives us.
Nope.
But we do get to choose how we respond.
Yep. And
that's on you, and that's on me. And that's the one thing I tell people all the time. The response is up to you. And then there are benefits based on the choices you make that are already made for you. Just make the right choice.
Okay, what was those three, during that reflection period, what were the 3 C's?
The 3 C's. 1, celebrate.
Yep.
Celebrate yourself. Number 2, challenge yourself. And number 3, change yourself.
I think that's the biggest takeaway. Because we talked about the 3 F's, what you had,
yep.
The 3 P's, which is kind of where you're at in the perspective, but those 3 C's, right?
Yes.
So again, it is challenge.
Celebrate. Start with celebration.
So celebrate?
Because I don't think we honor ourselves enough.
Yep.
And celebrate the things that you've done that are good. Celebrate the good things about you.
Yep.
And then challenge yourself with the areas that you need to improve on. Yep. Be honest about those. And sometimes we might need help or whatever. And then make a commitment to change into whatever this new form of you is. None of us stay the same us forever. We all evolve into somebody new. And if you don't evolve, then you die.
Well, so there you go. That is the charge I'm going to give everybody in the audience every day. It is to celebrate, to challenge, and to change every day.
Every day. If you do that, life, then you don't get bored.
No.
I mean, you really don't. I mean, who wants to be bored? I mean, I don't.
No. So, and enjoy each day as you're doing it. So, David, I appreciate it. Thank you for your vulnerability, your transparency, your just who you are, and sharing that with us today.
Well, thank you. This has been a great opportunity to you and your entire staff. I mean, this is pretty big for me.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, David, for taking the stage here on set at Serendipity Labs. Are you ready to take the stage, or do you know someone that should be up here? Help us feature the best speakers around by heading to YoungGunsMovement.com. Apply now and you might be featured in an upcoming episode. YG Stage is sponsored by Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Circle Electric. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow the Young Guns Movement to stay tuned to new content coming your way. I'm your host, Andy Weins, founder and CEO of GreenUp Solutions. Thanks for watching.